Hello there my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg, and today we have some more Star Wars updates pertaining to the future of Lucasfilm. In a brand new interview with USA Today, Daisy Ridley added to the chorus of voices responding to Kathy's exit. She was asked the question in the context of the Rey movie and her future in the Star Wars franchise. And they simply asked her, how does the president stepping down affect you? And Daisy cut right to the chase and said, it doesn't affect me and my future in Star Wars whatsoever. For two major reasons. Number one, even though Kathleen Kennedy's been replaced by Dave Filoni and Lin Brennan, and she no longer holds the position of Lucasfilm president, she is still actively involved in the company. She is not retiring, and she's still going to produce on Star Wars films. She produced on The Mandalorian and Grogu, Star Wars Starfighter, and for all we know, the movie Daisy is going to appear in next. And that's why Daisy says the shifting around of senior positions at Lucasfilm doesn't really change a thing, not for her movies. And the second reason is because the Simon Kinberg trilogy, which is going to be episode 10, 11, and 12, is something Kathleen Kennedy said Dave Filoni and Lin Brennan are keen on making, despite her stepping down. It's a trilogy Disney wants, it's a trilogy Dave Filoni apparently wants, so regardless of what happens with the Rey movie, and we'll talk about that in just a second, Daisy one way or another is probably still going to return. Over the last 2 or 3 years, before her exit, Kathleen Kennedy has alluded to the fact Alan Bergman and Disney want Star Wars to return to the main saga films. After the next two spin-offs, Mando and Starfighter, the Kinberg trilogy sounds like a priority, especially if Dave's film might be turned into a series, or might be on the back burner. Who knows what's going on with that, but one way or another, it sounds like they're keen on returning to what's going on with the main characters from the sequel trilogy, post-episode 9. And Kinberg is someone Dave is very close to, is someone he collaborated with on Star Wars Rebels, so even if Dave does shuffle things around, maybe cancel certain projects, I can still see this trilogy being something they prioritize. Just a theory, but it goes hand in hand with what Daisy is saying. When she was asked about the Charmin Obaid-Chinoy spin-off announced in 2023, she says while there might be updates in the future, there is probably not going to be anything in 2026. And this is similar to what I've been saying, that I'm not too sure the Rey standalone is still a thing, but I think Daisy is definitely going to return at some point. And speaking of this, there's one comment she makes with USA Today that makes me think there is something else, something secretive in the works that she can't talk about. This is what they said. Ridley laughed at the notion that even while she promotes films that are literally made, she can't talk about any potential future projects. Everything is so accessible now. It's really wonderful to be part of something where people maybe don't know as much. And I love that people want to know, but it will also be a great surprise when the thing is done. But Daisy will not elaborate on what the thing is. Like I say, I don't think it's the Rey movie. The Charmin Obaid standalone is not going to get an update in 2026. But it doesn't mean Daisy hasn't been part of something else. There have been some theories about Starfighter, but recently, and this is another big update, Jonathan Tropper, the screenwriter, said, you're not going to see any characters you've seen in the other movies. There are no cameos. So there might be something secretive that we don't know about. And I will say, it's interesting Daisy alludes to the Star Wars news cycle, how everything these days is reported, leaked, forecasted, but something might just drop, an announcement of some kind. And someone who backs this up is a person who was very prominent in the build-up to The Rise of Skywalker, someone who leaked the Reylo kiss before it started spreading on Reddit, and now they're back and they say this. Whatever happens in the next few days or weeks in the Star Wars world, just remember that Lucasfilm heard you and tried to make what you wanted. Ooh, I wonder what this could be in reference to. Could it be the hunt for Ben Solo? Could production on an unknown Star Wars movie be starting very soon? There was a new listing by Nina Gold, so I'm wondering, what does Daisy know and what does the other source know? Now I just want to clarify something. As someone who doesn't think it's the best idea to return to Rey, at least not for the time being, I think for the meantime they should let Dave cook, maybe return to Rey in the future. I'm still far more interested in what Kinberg can do in collaboration with Dave than I am a Rey standalone. Because if Dave has any kind of say in those films, and I think he will, as Lucasfilm president he's taking over from Kathy, who was very involved in episodes 7, 8 and 9. So if they're doing another trilogy, I think Dave is very much going to be part of it. And if so, I think we're in for something that could improve the characters that were disliked in episodes 7, 8 and 9. And a big part of that is a focus on new protagonists, a different setting, integrating sequel characters into a new story, rather than it being a direct continuation of The Rise of Skywalker. A great example of Dave expanding his stories instead of just doing copy and paste is the Ahsoka show. That might be controversial to say because people had issues with it, but despite similarities with Star Wars Rebels and continuing the stories of the same characters, he didn't always take the most obvious path after the Rebels epilogue. He gave us fascinating new villains with great backstories and futures that we're going to see in Ahsoka Season 2. He showed us growth for characters like Hera and Ahsoka, her spiritual awakening Ahsoka the White, and even Jacen Syndulla. Sabine is someone who was definitely changed, and not always for the better, but even her story progressed. He introduced a new galaxy, new Force concepts, new Force witches in the Great Mothers, and even brought the Mortis gods back. I'd honestly be fascinated to see what he and Kinberg can do post-Episode 9, a brand new trilogy that could make fans actually vibe with Rey. I know that's controversial and people are already probably calling me a shill, but as long as they don't make her a Mary Sue again, it'd be great to see her struggles as a Jedi Master trying to build a new academy. All I'm saying is, out of the two options, the Sharmino Obaid-Chinoy film or a Kinberg trilogy with Dave's influence, I would rather take the latter. But returning to the Kathleen Kennedy thing, Daisy is absolutely right to say nothing is really going to change when it comes to her future, because if Rey comes back, in whichever film they're going to make, Kathy is probably going to produce on it, and it sounds like there's a good chance Dave isn't going to make too many changes to the upcoming slate. I honestly hope he does. I hope there's a complete reworking of what's coming soon, because so many of the announced movies just don't inspire me and so many other fans I've seen in comment sections, on social media, and just judging by the fandom's reaction. The Taika film, the Rey movie, I really hope that Dave is able to make projects that he wants to make. But what I'm saying is we have to be prepared for the possibility that not too much is going to change. But I am hopeful, and in preparation for videos like this, I've gone back and rewatched interviews with Dave at both Star Wars Celebration in 2023 and 2025, and a question that was put forward to Dave on multiple occasions is if there are more movies and shows in the works that fans don't know about. He simply grinned and repeated the word, "Sure." And combined with what Daisy says about surprises, combined with other rumours we've heard in the last few years, some of which have been corroborated and confirmed, like the Rick Famuyiwa series that never came about, I have a feeling there are lots of unannounced Star Wars projects at various stages of development that the Star Wars fandom isn't even aware of, whether they're still being written, on their first draft, or as far along as pre-production. There's so much we don't know about, and now that Dave's in charge, I hope some of those projects come to light. I know I've repeated this a few times at this point, but they need to interview Dave. But now I turn it over to you guys. Is there a scenario where Rey returns and it's actually a good step for the Star Wars franchise? Should it be a Rey standalone? Should it be Episode 10? Share your thoughts on all of this in the comments down below. And make sure to check out yesterday's video where we spoke about Dave Filoni's Star Wars movie. And if you enjoyed this one, my dear friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and may the Force be with you, always.